Hey HTDA and welcome back to Satisfactory! Today we are going to do things slightly different because as you can see my mall of everything design is already done. This video is going to be relatively short. It's going to show you the design philosophy behind the end product. It's going to show you how things work and basically just show you the end result of my design work. Now, for those of you who are actually interested in how I've built this, how I came to this design, and kind of like follow me along while I do that, there will be a second longer video that has all of that detail. But like I said, in this video, the mall of everything is already done, so let's jump right into that. Alright, so first things first, we have a central line, a central conveyor bus going into our storage facility, and as you can see, there's all kinds of different items on it. Now, I'm not entirely sure why things are bouncing around on the belt, like you can see. It looks really funny. But yeah, there's pretty much all the items that I'm not using anywhere else in my production chain are going to go on this belt. This is the surplus, so it's only tiny amounts, and it's calculated in such a way that it's 5 of this here, 10 of this there. There is only a total of, I think, around 150 items per minute on this belt right now. So that's more than enough for a Mark III belt, and we're close to upgrading this to Mark IV anyway. But this is not about getting huge amounts of stuff anywhere. This is just about getting enough stuff to your store so you can go back here every hour or so and stock back up. And with the stuff that you are going to need more of, like concrete, steel, iron plates, stuff like that, that you're really going to use in larger builds and higher amounts, those items will be on this belt with higher amounts as well. So you can see a lot of concrete passing, a lot of steel passing, etc, etc. Now, as you can see, we also have a hypertube here. And of course, this gap isn't supposed to be here, but this hypertube goes into the storage facility. Now, the whole thing is designed to really fit into my main bus. And for those of you who don't know what that looks like, there's a separate video about that. But the basic idea is that there is going to be a central line on the bus for the storage facility, and then there's 3 separate lines on each side, and I'll actually show you what that looks like a little further on ahead. 3 lines on each side that can be used for the transport of random materials from production facility A to B, just in case I'm going to have to transport stuff between my facilities. Now, I'm trying to minimize the amount of stuff that I actually transport all around the place. So these 3 belts, or 6 belts in total, should be plenty to actually make sure we do that. As you can see, these belts, when they reach my storage facility right now, are kind of empty, with the exception of a few belts that I'm sinking somewhere just in front, because I haven't actually dedicated those belts to any specific build yet. And we probably should be using those in something else, and then using the surplus to go back on this main belt. Now, when it comes to the actual transportation, the idea about my bus is that there are separate stations along the way, but we're not here to talk about the bus. We are going to talk about the storage facility. So the hypertube go into the storage facility and drop you off right here. Now, for those of you who are kind of afraid that this might suck you right back in, that's not actually the case, but it does make it really easy to actually get into the tube. Just stand under it and you will automatically go in it. And if you go back, it will just drop you out, and you can look around freely and move away from it, and you are just fine. Now, there's actually a second tube over here as well. It currently does not lead anywhere, but the idea about that one is that you can dedicate that to a secondary transportation hub and then go somewhere else, because this kind of leads back to my starting facility. So I figure I might use this one at some point to go back into a new facility. Now, the nice thing about this particular design is that you can easily fit in more hypertubes like this without really destroying the design, and just put those somewhere, not too close to the other ones of course, but somewhere in the same area, and use them in the same way. Now, let's talk about the actual storage. Before we get into the details of the storage, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Help me fill out these 2 boxes. It really helps other people find this channel, and of course it's a very nice compliment to get from you if people actually like and subscribe to the channel. So let's get back to the main stuff. We have a central line of stuff coming into my facility, and it's going straight into a sorting facility that's below my central storage. And yes, there is the occasional wildlife for some reason stuck in my storage facility, It keeps spawning inside here. I'm not sure what to do about that. But anyway, it's nice to have a little friend inside. The idea behind this storage facility, or this sorting facility I should say, is that there's basically a conveyor going up for every different item. You can see that in working, as you can see all around. It looks really cool, but it's very simple. We have this central belt, and then we have smart splitters all along the way. And I'll actually need to leave this mode for a moment to show you where we have one item being sorted out to the right, in this case into the conveyor, and then everything else goes straight on. Now you could use different settings as well. If you just simply set it to any, it will actually split the items, in this case the steel pipe, to the main line as well as to the side line, so you actually have the amount of stuff that goes into your storage. That's not what you want. If you set it to any undefined, it will actually back up as soon as one of the storage facilities is full, because it, for some reason, well, it won't actually let the item that's currently backing up through anymore, so that will be blocking everything else. So you do need to set this to overflow, and the nice thing about overflow is it counts every other item also as overflow, so it doesn't actually block your throughput. Now it goes all the way around, and as you can see I had some issues with the rocks and the general landscape, but this setup actually has enough room to work around that. So you can see I had to be a little bit creative with the conveyors over here, as well as the lifts, but all in all it works just fine. If you pick a more flat area where you build this, it will be looking pretty much as organized as this little piece over here on each side. Now, like I said, this is going to go all the way around, and then when it reaches this area all the way over here, we have the outer line completely sorted, and then the remaining stuff goes into the inner line, and it makes another circle once again in the opposite direction. And then when it reaches the end of the line, there is a last splitter that has its overflow set to the middle belt over here, and as you can see I already full on iron plates, so this is going to go into the overflow belt. And then there's a sink on the main level where we sink anything that does not fit into our central storage. Now it's actually very easy to reach this area as well, because I tucked a little ladder here on the side that's kind of tucked away near the entrance point of our facility. As you can see, it's right over here. It's actually out of sight. If you don't know it's there, you're not going to find it. But it does make it really easy to set new sorters. If you have any new items coming up, most of my storage is currently actually not in use just yet. If we go here to the right and we just pick something random like this, you can see there's not actually any item set over here. But as soon as I unlock a new item, or I put a new item on the belt, I simply set this to whatever it needs to be, so I can actually easily reach this station, and that's why the ladder is in here. Now the lifts go up and go into a separate storage facility each. This is just a simple storage container stacked up on each other, and that gives you plenty of room to basically collect whatever items you need in sufficient amounts. Now using these gaps in the floor, it makes it really easy to make this look really tidy, and I like having enough room to walk around my facility just in case I need to reorganize something here, upgrade the lifts, or whatever else you would need to do here. Now on top of that, I like having some boxes near the door just in case there's some random stuff that I need to drop here, some equipment, etc, etc. Stuff you're not going to mass produce or anything like that, but you do want to make sure you have something on hand, or maybe drop in some leaves and stuff like that that you collected along the way and you just don't know what to do with just yet. Now we do have the sink over here that is going to be very handy just to make sure we can get our coupons. Now right now I actually just spent all my coupons, so that's why we see me only having one. It's also very easy to make sure you can stock up the rest of your coupons somewhere close. You don't want to carry those around. And of course we have the awesome shop to make sure we have a place to spend them. Now the actual storage itself is going to be straightforward. I kept it relatively minimalistic. I initially thought about making walls and integrating this in walls and things like that, but honestly I kind of like the whole spacey look. I got a little bit creative with the walls. I also really like all the natural light we get in the facility this way. Of course you can close it up and make it more futuristic and do something with lights, but to be honest I really like the fact that we have a natural light. We can even see some trees. All in all, yeah, I just simply really like the looks of it. You can even see the mountains and clouds and stuff like that. We also can easily see what item is in where, because we of course use some of these little plates that you can put on here. Make sure we have an item name as well as an item icon, which makes it really easy to identify what is what. Now I try to keep the organization as logical as possible. So on the left hand, when you enter the building, we have most of the building materials that you're going to need for either just building walls and foundations and stuff like that, but also the main things we're going to need for the manufacturers and things like that. So we have wires, cables, etc, etc. Now I actually haven't connected up most of my base just yet, so you can see a lot of these actually don't have a dedicated plate yet, but that's because these are going to be dedicated to specific items like the computers, and things like circuit boards, etc, that I actually haven't connected up to my system yet. So I usually use the rule, if it's not connected yet, don't put a plate in it, so you know what you still have to do. So if I get to my storage, I'm like, hey, I want to pick up this item that's not actually there, and that's a quick reminder that that's probably the next thing I want to connect to my main storage. And once I do, I can put up the plate, and then I'm sure what I have in here and what I don't. Now, on top of that, of course, other than the fact that we have all this stuff on the ground floor, we have a total of 8 sites, even counting the entrance site, even though there's only going to be 4 storage units on here. But each site has a total of 10 storage facilities. So we have a total of 70 plus 4 is 74 storage facilities, all connected up to this sorting facility below. Now that's going to make sure we can store almost every item in the game right now, if we would want to, but to be honest, there's a lot of items in the game that you do not want to store, or that you probably do not want to mass produce, like equipment, like maybe ammunition, stuff like that, stuff like the biomass, etc, that you're probably not going to be mass producing anyway. So if you take that into account, this is going to be rather future-proof to store whatever we're going to need in future updates, as well as the current edition of the game. Now I'm already on experimental build 6, the update 6 build, and even that is going to be very easy to fit everything in here. Now we have this hypertube over here, and if we enter that, you will see we fly up all the way through, and we have a lot of open space here as well, and this will put us straight in front of our space elevator. Now this of course makes it really easy to put everything you want into the space elevator and progress your way through that. Now one thing that's actually not in here is the little hub you start out with. I actually don't like the design of this building, and that's why it's still on the ground over there. But I recommend that you can either put it on top of the building as well. There's plenty of room, as you can see. I think it kind of breaks up the aesthetic, but you probably won't necessarily be able to tell it's actually here because it's so high up. So if you want to keep it more central, I recommend you put it here. I just kept it close by on the ground, but there's definitely a way to incorporate that. You could also incorporate it, of course, in this little floor we have going over here that I actually haven't put to use at all, but you could break out a side wall and put it in there. The reason I recommend breaking out the side wall is that you're going to have somewhere for those units to fly off when you reach your next milestone, and I don't like those flying right through the roof of my building. Now, just look at this view, by the way. Isn't this just stunning to be able to look at this right from your building? Anyway, let's get back to the point. That concludes the overview of this awesome storage facility. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, and make sure that you don't forget to check out the other content. If you want to know how this was built, what process I went through, once again, make sure you check out the other video, and if not, I will catch you in the next one.